on from all that, and then now we can bring this, and we find a way to locate the role and the nature of collaboration that African musical arts could have in environments, in such collaborations and in VR. And in the attempt to get the opera away from the theater and place it in the communities then, means that then we can expand the nature or the context or the content of opera. And that already is demonstrated by some of the music that we presented here yesterday, the performance we had here yesterday, where my colleague, Dr. Elijah, had to look into the Luo community, come up with music and set it up for an opera, and have it presented in that kind of a VR environment that we had yesterday. And therefore, our concern is, how does cultural music or arts of Kenya or even in Africa locate themselves, or how do they behave in this kind of a collaboration? Way before the European came to our continent, we had our way of life that had certain practices that defined who we are. But at the entry of Christianity and education, we were made, or our forefathers were made, to vacate some of these practices and find new spaces through which they could connect with civilization. And now we have cultures, or we have cultural practices that are near extinct at this point. And as you read our abstract, you saw some of us have been really in this conversation of conservation and preservation, or going back and recreating the glory of some of these cultural practices from the community that are deemed extinct. And now here we are. We are bringing in the cultural musical arts and VR and designing a whole new conversation. So the question is, this is a good thing that this technology is coming to us. But then how do we engage, or how do we contribute to now the issue of global concern, such as climatic change, such as conflicts, such as drought and global warming, something which most people who are now activists of culture are demanding that the cultural arts become part of this conversation. These are global issues. They affect all of us. And so, having to work with Italy like I did, the conservators in Italy like I did during the last week, how do I bring in matters of global concern, such which are threatening our very own existence culturally? And also, how do I go back to the communities and get them to participate in this discourse? So maybe the question I should ask is then, does this kind of collaboration change the nucleus of our cultural arts? Does it make it unrecognizable to our communities, so that the next time, if a hall like this, we will not have elites like we've had in the last 1 week to work on a collaboration, but we'll go back to our grandfathers. We'll go back to Rwanda Magere's context. We will go back to whoever legend we may choose to work in future. Will they recognize this? Will they become part of this? Will they be part of this conversation? Either for our grandfathers, or their children, or their grandchildren, where would they plug? I was listening to our keynote speaker this morning, and he talked about an artist who was working on a sculpture in a slum area. And he talked about the children sitting or standing around the sculpture and seeing it come together, seeing it come to form, seeing it come alive. And at the end of it all, he said, that was our point of connection with the community. So our conversation this morning is really not coming from a point of expertise. It is coming from a point of provocation, of a conversation that would allow us to come up with methodologies or certain modalities of collaborations, especially when you're using the concept derived from our cultural musical arts or any other art, that would safeguard the nucleus of these arts so that it remains recognizable to those people who may not have had a chance to study Western music or deal with some of the styles and some of the genres coming through from us. Again, another speaker spoke, I think it was Leonardo, and he was asked about technology. That, I don't know, someone was proposing that they place, I think it was Kihima, to place the mobile phone on the hands of many people and have a collaborative production. And the issue there was about technology and the accessibility of that technology. And Kala spoke again this morning and talked about issues of emotions, issues of, where the emotions are located, yeah? And for our cultural practices, our cultural artistic practices, emotions and meanings are everything. So if you take it from the piece of art, then you have distorted the nucleus of that cultural item. And therefore, most people may appreciate the aesthetics that are created out of it. But the meaning, especially when we have to indulge on a social discourse or a global discourse, I think there is a need to come up with ways of engagement, ways of even choosing the concepts, ways of working with the concepts, so that we keep that alive. And so I would like that the organizers, at the end of this conversation, that we could have the recording of whatever conversation goes on here, so that we can put it together. As I say, it's a beginning of a conversation, and we can use it to drive this conversation forward. So in 30 minutes, we may not cover everything, but you and I are the expert in this conversation. So I will invite my colleague, Dr. Elijah, to highlight some of his concerns too.
So through our experiences of this, there were two issues that we realized. Is that when we are trying to situate African musical arts in hybrid environments, so we are trying to find out how best can we include African musical arts in hybrid environments. And in that scenario, we are looking at music, we are looking at dance, we're looking at instrumentation. So when we bring them from the normal platforms where people perform these arts and we take them to a different environment, are we still achieving same meanings or are we getting different meanings? Yesterday I carried a small survey and I've not finished analyzing that data because I thought it was a lot of, it will be little, but I realized there's so much information people gave about their experiences yesterday. One of the things that people mentioned is that they enjoyed the visuals, the animations. So it means that if we bring the musical arts from normal performance without integration of visuals, probably the visuals might enhance people's appreciation of that art. So that is something that came out very clearly. And therefore, suppose, and then contrastingly, other people said in certain songs, the visual did not match the storyline that they know. especially. So there is one song that was being performed about Vida, about this beautiful girl. But then they did not see a beautiful girl in one of the animations. So they say that what we should do in future is that we have to do more research on the meanings of the songs so that the visuals can portray the meaning. Just in case someone cannot hear what is happening, they're able to see the story. So that is the kind of thing that we are looking at. Suppose we move African musical arts into this space. How best will we achieve meanings? Apart from that, another person mentioned that there is enhanced spirituality, which is a good thing. And the example is that when we are performing and let's say you are talking about demons or ghosts or angels, because you cannot see them, the singer must work very hard to convince you so that you create that perception of a demon in your mind. But with the technology, now the animations can create something that looks like a demon that now enhances the lyrics that you are singing. So they gave us very good information, meaning that it's something that is already being accepted, that we can move these African arts to a different space and we'll achieve even much more meaning to those who are viewing or taking part in this. And then that is in terms of the meaning making and visuals. But then there is another issue that is raised in these performances in terms of meaning making per the society in which that art comes from. So one of the things that we realize in musical arts in Africa is communal participation. So people take part in the singing and in the dancing. When you move this from the people's participation and now it's more online, certain benefits are lost. When you dance, there is therapeutic benefit to the dance. So when now you are not dancing, you are just watching the dance, are you still getting the same benefits or there is a benefit that is lost? Suppose that benefit is lost, how can we mitigate that so that there are other benefits you acquire, or we even allow you to take part in the actual dance? So can you have a space in which you can mediate between dancing and not dancing in a performance? So it's just those kinds of questions. And the essence of these questions is for us to have a framework that we can use moving forward, that when we are performing, we are achieving meanings, and that those meanings are created to the audience the way it would be when it's a live performance. Also, we must allow for new meanings to be created, because if any music is to be performed in how it was originally done, and also knowing how something was originally done is extremely difficult if you did not live in that time period, which means everything we are doing is approximations. So we can only approximate to the closest example that we know. Therefore, during performance of these musical arts, we now must allow them to transit in various spaces: live performance, integrated performance, a purely African music performance, African and Western music performances, so that we reach wider audiences, we achieve more meanings than what was there before, and then after that we can then judge the effectiveness of what we are doing. But as at now, our focus is what meanings are we making and what framework can we have to achieve the best out of this. And so now I'll call back my co-presenter to ask the questions.
So, honestly speaking, I think this kind of a collaboration is best placed to actually engage much deeper with issues like climatic change, especially climatic change, because it can stimulate certain discussions that is not possible to stimulate by just simply looking at a cultural performance and not being able to engage with it from an intellect point of view. And therefore, because it is it is well placed to engage or stimulate discussions because it crosses certain boundaries. It crosses certain either discipline boundaries or intellectual discipline, offering a critical idea that allows people to engage. However, our biggest concern is still the issue of meaning, aesthetics, and connection, reporting or engaging our communities. Maybe my first question here would be then, what would define a hybrid artist working with cultural material such as the Luanda Magere? What kind of concepts, what kind of approach would they take for them to engage with people who are not just taking the beauty and appreciating the beauty of the item, but people who are geared towards achieving a certain action in the communities? What are the pros and cons? And this, I pose this to my dear colleagues working with cultural material. What would we lose and how would we regain or transform what we have lost so it's that it still makes meaning at our community levels? So we are now starting the conversation.
Okay. So we had a question actually. Is there someone who is able to respond to the question? Federico.
Thank you so much, Priscilla and Elijah, for your talk and explanation. I would just say that in the process, because we are in this process of this project, and we know that we will be again together in 1.5 years. So I think that all the questions you mentioned in this conversation, we have the time finally to, because now we know each other, we cooperated together, and so is our due, but also our potentiality to try to answer somehow to all these questions. And in this moment, I would like just to say that concerning the relation between the visual part to the, I would say, original heritage of the African music, this is something we can work on, because it's, I understand what you mean, but you know, we need time to do this, no? So this is a point I think we can work on. And also on the other, one other question you did is about the intersection with the role of the musician, the role of the artist, the role of the singer.
Artist, yeah.
Yes, and so the relation, Carla was speaking about the relation, no, between spectator and performer and the other performance. These are questions I think it's we can agree from now, from my side, that we can work on these matters, very important matters, and we can use technology to do this, because we will be far. But thanks to what also Andrea described, we can realize some rehearsals together, some meetings and discussion to go on with in this process, which for me personally is very interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I know we will. We are now involved.
Thank you. Another questions? Okay.
All right, so I have a question about the recording, the oral tradition, indigenous knowledge, right? I feel like there's a beautiful dynamic in the performer that can adjust his performance to the audience. He can adjust the performance based on his own current state, so there's a lot of dynamics. what happens when we record it is that it becomes static, right? Is there a way to avoid this or to work around this, to maintain this dynamic, to maintain this kind of relationship between the performance, his art, and then maybe audience feedback? What happens?
Okay. Yes. Want to respond to that? Are we responding or are we just having a conversation first? Yeah, we just make notes. Yeah. Okay. And I think Mr. Katuli, that was my lecturer when I was younger, now my colleague at the Department of Music. But I think that that dynamism is actually what we are looking to take advantage of, so that people can make meaning as they engage in it. And therefore, recording it, it's true, it actually removes certain aspects of the performance. And that's why I'm concerned about taking this back to the communities and they become part of it. At what level would they engage? And what do we do? What can we do to establish those connection points? Yeah.
I can add something on that. So in terms of a piece of art being static, I would want to give this example. Suppose you have an aria and that is supposed to be performed in an opera theater, and then you choose that you want to take that song and do a pop style of it and record it. You will still achieve meanings. If you wanted people to relate to that song, the text will be the same, the performance will be different, but even the audience will be wider. That's how I'm thinking about transforming art, so that we have art must make meaning to the people who practice it. So if it does not make meaning to the people who practice it, then there is a problem. Either the meaning is changing or the people are changing. So in this instance, you find that there are actually many people who love traditional music, but they love other people who love traditional music modified. So these people who love traditional music that is modified, I think I would be more towards their side, because these are different people from the earlier people that performed this music. If they can identify to this music in the new way in which they are performing it, then it is being functional to them. So I would allow that someone modifies art for the survival of that art. Otherwise, it will become a museum material, which we just cannot practice, cannot identify with. We only know the history of it. So I would allow for dynamism in performance.
Okay, thank you. There's time for just one question.
Thank you. I think the concerns we have, my name is John Katuli from Music Department here at Kenyatta University. I'm happy to be here. This is my first time to attend, and I wanted to respond to some of the concerns. One of the things we must note, as Nato Bruno one time said, is change is constant. Change is always there. And the only thing that does not change is the change itself. So changes will be there. But the question is, when that change comes, is it positive or negative? Those are the questions we need to ask. As Elijah said, modification is required. In fact, in some communities in our area, there is no music that is performed the same way. But there is something that remains constant in that music that makes you identify that music as that music. So as we do the hybridization, those are some of the concerns we should have. What is it that is in this music that gives it its identity, so that we don't destroy that identity? That's one of the things we need to get concerned. But change will always be there. Whether it is being performed in the same community or not, when it is performed here and then it's performed in the evening elsewhere, it will not be exactly the same. Changes will always be there. But there is something that makes that music to have its identity. And that's what we need to identify. Again, as we do hybridization, it's a concept which my first time to hear, I heard it in agriculture. Yeah, I heard it in agriculture where you have 2 cows. Here in Kenya, we have a diversity of climates. We have Turkana, which is very dry, and we have other places which are wet. And you may find that the cows in Turkana, they survive there, but they don't produce a lot of milk. Right? And we have cows elsewhere around the central, which produce a lot of milk, but they cannot survive in Turkana. So the hybrid should be thinking in terms of this cow has this quality, this other cow has this quality. When we bring the 2 together, then we should get a better breed. I think that should be our concern. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think this is the end of the discussion part for the first talk. Let's make some clap. Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, Elia, for the talk. And now it's time for first presentation from Greece, because we are expecting to have 2. So let me introduce Christos Lougiakis. The first talk is entitled to Visiting an Ancient Athenian Home Within a Multi-Visitor, Multisensorial Extended Reality Storytelling Experience.
It's a long title. Okay, so hello everyone. Sorry, I have to talk here. Let me bring it closer. Okay, that's better. Hello, I am Christos Lougiakis. I'm coming from the National Kapodissia University of Athens, and I'm going to present you. Let me hide this one. Okay. Visiting an ancient Athenian home within a multi-visitor, multi-sensorial extended reality storytelling experience. This experience was created in the context of the Bridges European-funded project, and some of our collaborators are the Illusion Walk, Bolt Virtual, the Athens Airport, the Berlin Airport, and the Foundation of the Hellenic World. So in this project, what we are trying to do is to explore the XR, the extended reality technology in cultural applications, create some immersive and interactive experience for the visitors. This is one aspect of the project, and another aspect of the project is training in real-world simulations, advanced training scenarios for the real-world simulations, such as firefighter brigade exercises. I'm going to focus on the first part of the project. So, some things about the technology. We use immersive headsets. It's a technology that can support multiple users. For example, in this experience, we have up to 5 visitors that perform concurrent interaction. They are co-located, they are in the same space. And they have deviceless interaction, which means that they don't have to use any controllers and things like that. They have hand tracking and motion tracking with all the equipment they wear. They can interact with physical objects that are also being tracked, and you can see them both in the virtual and the physical world. It's a multi-sensory experience. We use or we experiment with smell, wind, heat in order to enhance the experience. And it's a low-cost system that can support any size and any configuration. So now some things about the actual experience. So the experience takes place at the Ergocharis' house. It's an eventful evening in the Athenian house of the 5th century BCE. We are in Athens of 515 BCE, and the city is in turmoil. 15 years of ongoing armed conflict with Sparta and its allies had still not come to an end. After stormy meetings in the municipality, the Athenians decided to send a large expeditionary force to Sicily to seize Syracuse. So in the home workshop of the famous potter Ergocharis, where the visitors find themselves, a small farewell gathering has been prepared for his son, Ephthymachus, who will live in a few days with the Athenian war fleet for Sicily. These characters, marked with pink, they are the NPCs, the non-player characters. And the visitors take the role, let's say, of one of the following. It's Apollonios, Linus, Antigone, Melissa, and also Hippias. Depending on the number of visitors, this is flexible. So the idea for the scenario to work on many levels is visiting the home of a pottery maker. storylines. The first, a house visit, a farewell gathering before the son of the family goes to war, during which you can learn about the house and how the people live. The second storyline presents the political situation at the time through the conversation and arguments that the virtual characters have and that the players can listen. During which you can learn about the house and how the people live. The second storyline presents the political situation at the time through the conversation and arguments that the virtual characters have and that the players can listen. We allow the user to paint the environment alone or in cooperation, such as painting a vase or dressing a character in armor. Furthermore, the user could also have the tracking is a location-based experience. Users can move untetheredly throughout the whole room and they are tracked. The VR environment and the real environment are coupled. A real wall in the room should be present also in VR. Therefore, the room, besides having to fulfill criteria for the technological setup, has also to be suitable for the environment you want to represent. In our case, it has to be equipped with a grid of markers, as you can see in the picture, on its ceiling for enabling the tracking, and be big enough to represent an ancient Athenian house interior. In order to transform the existing space into virtual Athenian house, the technology imposes the limit of a one-to-one relationship between the virtual and the real. Because as you saw in the previous videos, you actually walk in order to move through the virtual world. There is no virtual locomotion system. Thus, we had to create the layout that transforms the existing room to an Athenian house by placing parts of the house that were essential for our scenario into the current space. All the parts of the virtual house, like the courtyard, staircase, workshop, kitchen, etc., were all actually positioned in the current space. The respective layout was marked on the floor with tape, as in the picture, and the plan with measurements was sent to a 3D modeler to create a first 3D representation of the house. And later in the process, the room was scanned using a combination of LiDAR scanning and photogrammetry to get the exact model of the room. So one of the main challenges was how to integrate historical information into the storytelling in a natural way, without interrupting the action. Having multiple storylines and the virtual characters as the main way to disseminate historical knowledge in between action events was our main way to tackle this topic. The time and space limitations were a critical factor. In a specific amount of time, we had to unfold the storyline and make meaningful connections with the different rooms of the house and the virtual characters. Our primary method, this was again use the virtual characters to guide you throughout the house. See them interact with each other, and a major tool was having specific sync points in the experience where all the players were asked to proceed in order to the experience to continue. These points were noted as little fit icons on the floor, indicating that the users have to proceed there. In order to keep users' attention, interaction-based elements had to present in the storyline and involve users in all actions. We tried to involve the users by having them the participants in the conversations of the virtual characters and express their opinion, and thus later the storyline. Also allow them time for free play and natural interaction for playing with objects in the environment, like painting a vase or object manipulation. Now some things about the implementation. So a Greek company called Bolt Virtual is in charge of developing the software of the Athenia house experience and successfully integrated to the immersive deck platform that has been developed by our collaborators in Vienna. And it will be operating at the Hellenic Cosmos. The work required very close collaboration between all these partners. A four-pronged approach and corresponding adaptation of our normal workflow regarding development of XR experience has been followed. So one was make full use of novel opportunities of customized hardware and proprietary location tracking system, as well as its restrictions. Second was to learn and utilize the capabilities of a proprietary beta version SDK in Unity, which is in simultaneous development during the project lifetime. The third was to ensure very precise overlap of the physical environment, the first floor, and the virtual environments, the second floor, as well as movement of 5 players and 3 NPCs within a confined physical environment. And fourth and last one, create an appealing environment and player interactions, ensuring historical accuracy, adherence to user requirements, educational character, and above all, immersion of participants in storytelling. Success depends on trade-offs and compromises between the above and other secondary factors, leading to a balanced outcome and without making large concessions in any of the above. So now some images of the content design and production follow. These are related to the house, from sketch to a detailed environment. And these are related to some objects that exist in the virtual space, such as vases, furniture, and others. And as you can see here, this is the final results of virtual furniture and objects in the virtual world, such as the armor, the vases, and other things. And here we have the character design of the NPCs and the avatars. And lastly, I'm going to share with you a brief video of the experience. Actually, it's a walkthrough of the virtual environment of the experience. This is the entrance. As you can see, the environment is very detailed. And this is Ergo Harris's workshop. These are the bases that the players are interacting with throughout the experience. Unfortunately, the food is only virtual, so the visitors get disappointed. And these are the virtual stairs. And the last environment where the players are dressing Ergo Harris's son to war. So, yeah, as a closing remark, I hope all the outcomes of this work will inform the Caphe project. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Now is really, we have 15 minutes for your questions and replies. So please feel free to ask Christos.
Yes. In terms of disorientation,
What was the general reaction?
no, since you mentioned
Physical
it,
and their feeling and their response.
yeah. Compared to other experiences, they were not disoriented at all, because you walk in the space as you would do in real life. You don't have any virtual locomotion system that, it's very easy to disorient you. So in terms of that, it was a great outcome. In general, we cannot be sure, about the comments when getting out of such an experience, because if the user is an inexperienced one, the wow factor of the technology is very strong and impactful, and you can never be sure. All the users come out and say, wow, that was great, that was amazing. We have a lot of comments about the visuals. They are very happy with the visuals of the house. They are very happy that they are able to interact with each other do high fives, touch each other, touch the real walls, and being in the same co-located, let's say, experience. This is not an experience that gets you disconnected and one player is in one country and the other is in the other country. You are all there, so it's a shared experience and highly social. So they are all commenting positively on that.
Yeah, just to keep going. One more question. When I see this, when I see Michał, CD Muse or CD Muse, Electronic Academia Electronica, it makes me think of how you might incorporate philosophical traditions in this environment where you could go in and get Platonic or get Socratic. Yes, and I'm curious to know if that is something that's in the the mind of the makers and how you might progress this, whether it's through AI interface with questions and response generation and things like that, or it could go anywhere. But just that's my question.
Yeah, there is a lot of potential to that, and already there exist some apps that create a transcendence experience where you have some out-of-body experience still. I mean, you can do so much with the technology. It's really impressive.
One question from Alexandra, and then CDMU.
Thank you very much, Christos. This was very exciting. I will have got one question on this educational effect that you are intentionally planning while constructing such spaces. Because do you think rather to construe the basis for learning data, dates, kings and whatever, or is it rather oriented towards developing so-called historical empathy? This is the idea that I came across while being in fellowship in United States, and I have seen this different kind of approach to teaching history. That is not the battles, the events, the biggest ones, but how did the everyday life look like in order to feel a bit of atmosphere, maybe kind of genius loci, I don't know, of the space. So how we are thinking about this educational effect?
I'm very happy that you are mentioning this term, because on the next presentation it's about that exactly, and of course we apply that in that experience. We use this approach of historical empathy, putting you in the shoes of people, of the ancient years, and putting them in everyday activities and having them interact with what the people interact back then. Yeah. This is our approach. We don't have, informational content throwing, many information to the users, many dates and stuff like this. We have an approach of experiencing the life as it was back then, and having educational, let's say, approach to an experiential education approach. Yeah. Definitely it can do that, because it has, the power to put you in the perspective of people all over the world in any time, Yeah. Thank you. I cannot hear you very well.
Thank you for your presentation. I would like to ask about notions, so that you have used interchangeably physical environment and real environment. Is there difference in uses of these notions?
Yeah, there is a huge difference. As I said, one major factor is that you're not being disoriented. You have complete awareness of where you are and where you're going, because you don't have virtual locomotion, as I said. And the sense of presence is much higher, because you feel the freedom of space. You don't feel constrained by the boundaries of the virtual areas we have normally when we set up these kinds of environments. So this sense of freedom creates a stronger sense of presence, sense of immersion, Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for your presentation. I think mine was a query about, so before you go into this experience, do you have to have had prior knowledge of, what you're going to experience? Because when I was looking at the presentation, I could note that it's very dependent on it's a visual thing, and perhaps if I had no idea of what Athens is like, or if it's an art-based curation, there is no information to let me know what I am experiencing.
This is a very good point, and we actually consider what you're saying. And right now, it wasn't in the videos that I showed, but right now, when you start the experience and you wear the headset, you see a virtual representation of the real world as it was when you were outside. You see the corridor. You don't see the Athenian, let's say, house. You see the corridor, you wear the headset, you get familiar with it. There is a small tutorial on how you interact. And then you are being transported through a portal to ancient Greece. So, yeah, we have taken account into that. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay. Come again?
Assuming I'm a first-time user,
Yes.
I'm coming into the VR space, and I have no idea of, the history of Athens.
The history of
And
Athens.
so I'm
Okay.
going through these rooms, and I don't know what is what. Is there a way to get the information, either through, is it text, of, within the experience?
Okay.
Or do I go through a script before I go through the video?
Okay, I see what you mean. There is an introductory, poster that you get a general context of the experience, but the design of the experience has taken into account that most of the users don't know anything. It doesn't take anything, as for granted. So it takes you little by little to the information space of ancient Greece. Yeah. Good.
Thank you so much, Christos.
Thank you. Bogna had a question. You had a question.
Okay, Christos, thank you so much. And now it's time to introduce Alexandra Łukaszewicz. She is a colleague from Academia Academy of Arts in Szczecin, and she's going to speak about ethical approaches in constructing VR environments.
Thank you, Adrian, but maybe we'll see if it works. You can make it full screen. I don't need, I can take my computer. I hope that the remote control works, although today there were different versions. Okay, welcome. I think that everybody is a bit already tired, but I think that I would like to step on another level of our discussions today, to a kind of meta level. We are mostly discussing the issues what and how, what is possible, how we can do it, about technological novelties, of course, developing methodologies, and it's, of course, all very right in place. But I would like to sensitize all of you to the kind of ethical approach that we are taking up while construing hybrid, or especially I would like to talk today about this VR environments. So this is a kind of meta-ethical level of consideration, not too specific, not too professional, just to give you the kind of overview, but this meta, in this case means, of course, not Zuckerberg, but thinking not about specific moral dilemmas that we might that we are facing while dealing with different technologies, possibilities, and forms of distribution, new contracts and whatever, but it is a kind of an ethical standpoint. This is the thing that I want to stress, that we should consider what kind of ethical standpoint we are taking while construing VR environments. And this is relevant because, yes, these VR environments and more spaces of our lives. Of course, I'm participating in many discussions here around, stressing the need of keeping something material. I also like matter. I like touching, smelling, and stuff. But I think that anyway, that I'm used, we are used, people are adapting. People are adapting to changes throughout the whole history, and it might be possible that we will also adapt to the new environments, because this what we need is, we need some kinds of perception, we need to feel that we are active, that we are intentionally acting, that we are building meaningful relations. So, and all of this seems to be, maybe not in full terms now, but in a short future, possible also in other environments than just physical. So we might adapt to see differently, to move differently, to do things also differently. So here there are just, oh, I have changed here. Which way? Yes. So, because these are my notes and it is easier for me to follow what I'm saying to you. So these are different kinds of environments. Some of you, of course, know of them, all of them, some not. So I'll just say shortly, on the top we have got Academia Electronica with the CD Mio, you know, so here you are again, you know, in two kinds of embodiments, although this is in mobile. So this is the space for education in Second Life. We have got different kinds of trainings, of course. This is also educational kind of implementation of VR technologies. There are games. This is, I couldn't take it from my archives. I'm not playing, you know, I'm playing in real life, but not in games in VR. But this is from Roblox. There are also Amazon kiosks that you might go and shop. Or there are also art galleries. And it was interesting for me here to observe, and I shared this observation with some of you already, that here, seeing this creative industry scene with all these startups that we were meeting and companies, they are mostly focused on commercial, also social and educational, but in the kind of training things. But there are much more shops than other kind of spaces are also, and this what I feel that we are bringing in are this academic and artistic forms of using VR spaces. So this is to depict how really how many spaces of lives are being embraced with VR technologies. But we are using this term without really specifying what we do mean, and again, maybe for some it is a repetition, but I think that is relevant to talk about the definitions. And here I follow David Chalmers from the extended mind theory, now working on the argumentation on virtual reality as being real. So I took it from his article, a very simple kind of way of putting how we might understand what is virtual reality. Because we might think about it in a few different ways. First, in the way that we have got a few virtual realities, not just one. So then we treat it as a countdown, and in such a way, this virtual reality is just a virtual environment. So, for example, Academia Electronica would be a virtual environment, or some kind of training would be located in virtual environment or virtual reality, different virtual realities, not necessarily strongly connected together. But we might also think about virtual reality as a kind of mass noun that is covering different virtual reality environments, and also virtual reality technology that is used to construct, to build, and sustain these kinds of environments. There are also some other ways of thinking of virtual reality that are going outside of VR, so that to embrace, for example, the opera performance. Because from the point of view of this kind of definition, we would rather call it hybrid, as it was, or mixed. Again, didn't change, you know. I am really apologizing. Okay, I am not doing it correctly. This is, again, yes. So this is the definition. So then we can think rather about the opera experience as a kind of hybrid experience or mixed reality experience. Because mixed reality, although intermedia is also a kind of mixed reality, we might think, you know, intermedia art is producing mixed reality objects that are, and this mixed reality is immersive and interactive kind of environment that is, of course, partly physical and partly computer generated, and it can be in various ways done. And augmented reality is one of the versions of mixed reality that involves that such a situation that virtual objects are overlaid on regular, ordinary physical environment. Yes. I will not learn this. Okay. So then this subject was already today somewhere underneath our talks, how we should approach this virtual reality. It is something that is, but really does it exist? Is it real or is it fantastic? How we should approach it. And again, Chalmers is proposing here a kind of simple categorization of approach to the status of virtual reality. And one is virtual irrealism, and here we might call for example, Jean Baudrillard and his theory of simulacra. And from this point of view, generally virtual objects that does not exist, and events does not really take place, and experiences are rather illusionary and not that valuable as in physical life. But there is also virtual realism, as for example by Michael Heim, who is saying that yes, and objects and experiences and activities are real and are meaningful in the same measure and in the same measure as physical ones. But it seems that it is too strong kind of approach. It says it is real, not dividing the forms of being, the forms of reality. What is already done with virtual digitalism? What is the approach that Chalmers takes up himself? And it is said, okay, because I have it broadened, yes. How he approaches this virtual digitalism. So he's saying that yes, virtual objects really exist, but as a kind of specific objects. These are digital objects. They don't exist in the same space, in the same way as physical ones, although because it is different matter of their formations. And also events in virtual worlds exist, and mostly, largely, take really place, but they are digital events, So also here we have got this ontological kind of difference, but it does not mean that there is no existence, there is no kind of matter. And experiences in virtual reality involve non-illusionary perception of a digital world. We really look at something that is digital, and this what is digital can be like life, true, but also can be a role-play game, you know. So, like we can go and play with dragons and do fantastic stuff, and see also 360 movies. So there might be also a kind of fantastic perception of fantastic things, although this representation of these fantastic things are real, although digital. I don't know if I express myself correctly, because these are this kind of ontological and epistemic differences. But here we are coming to something that Carla Zanin was already talking today in the morning, that we can approach these virtual experiences as really having meaning, having emotional content. It is not something that we play, but something that we really do, we feel, we engage, and we can construct meaningful lives. Oh yes. So, for example, we might ask, and there are these kind of questions that, for example, if I climb a mountain in physical life, is it more of the accomplishment than when I do it in virtual life? Or when I play the chess game, or I watch a movie, or if I make a business in virtual reality and physical reality, is one or the other more important, better in a way? Or if I make friends, or if I fall in love? There were already marriages in Second Life, and there were also court cases that, for example, this was a famous case study, maybe some of you know, a lot of perhaps know, in the United States, that the couple met in Second Life. Later they married in physical life, but they still continued spending considerable amount of time in Second Life as important sphere for them. But then the lady had an affair in Second Life. So not like in physical body, but there are chat rooms, you know, there are chat rooms, private ones. So the husband sued her for divorce, because of her guilt, because of her betrayal, they have to divorce. And it was decided so, because it is true emotion, you know. And if it is on the screen or not a screen, you know, this what counts is this engagement and the meaning that we are giving into this symbolic practices in different kinds of, you know, ontologically formed worlds. So, if it is so meaningful, we have to think about values. And not only just when we come across the problem and we have to solve certain moral dilemma just to then, okay, what to do? No, I think that it is so much hype on VR and XR, what and how can be done, that we really should think, you know, but on which set of values should direct us. And so this set of values, kind of a value system, is giving generally the ethical foundation for any other various detailed ethical concerns or moral dilemmas that are, and this refers to different kinds of worlds and different kinds of environments, not just virtual ones, but also physical ones. It generally refers to our lives. So, for example, this specific ethical concerns present in physical and VR environments involve privacy, social economic inequalities, accessibility, identity control, freedom of creative expression, for example. And there are, of course, also some specific concerns, ethical concerns relating to VR environments that don't appear in physical space, although they might be considered as a kind of variant of the previous ones. So here we can talk about problem with accessibility to biometric or brainwave data that might be used to control people's thoughts and behavior, or using multiply and different identities on multiply and different metaverse spaces and still being accountable, yes? How can I be accountable having different avatars, my body not really doing anything, who I am, yes? Okay, so I will do it. So I have spotted two kind of ethical approaches to VR environments, or also even a bit broader to XR environments and technologies that are connected with different social, economic, and religious point of views that can be briefly characterized as humanistic, as Christian, although neither of them never exists in the pure form. So neither one or the other is fully distinct. And they are not the only ones. They are just visible. From this kind of approaches, we can see a kind of set values being proposed. So, thank you for showing me that it's only 5 minutes. I'm not happy about it. Yeah, okay, there will be less discussion. So humanistic approach to VR environments is generally based on this values of liberty, equality, brotherhood or sisterhood, and is combined with pro-social or even socialistic orientation, despite of religious belief, which are usually relegated to private sphere. And this kind of approach is opening up for non-hierarchical and temporal communal arrangements in different kinds of environments, transforming their structure to more equal. So here it is rather drive maybe not the biggest corporation platforms, maybe more decentralized movements, communal kind of activities, in some even radical versions, it may go anarchist. Unfortunately, I don't have with me, I didn't bring with me the diploma work of my student that has constructed anarchist VR environment. And he was talking through Hacking Bay about construing, you know, this temporal autonomous spheres within VR environment that might pop up and not be kind of dominated by any corporation, any meta, or whatever. Okay, so here, in both of these approaches, I see kind of top-down and bottom-up perspective, and this top-down perspective is mostly expressed in the, I think, in the recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence by UNESCO, published in last year, 2022. Of course, it is on AI, it is not on VR, but here we really see from this kind of humanistic tradition a trial to put in place a certain set of values, yes, and these are values that are written in these recommendations, like respect, protection, and promotion of human rights and fundamental freedom and human dignity, environmental and ecosystem flourishing, ensuring diversity and inclusiveness, living in peaceful, just, and interconnected societies, which are combined with principles that can guide action in various policy areas. I will be not trying to broaden this, what I'm saying, just to go, but it is, of course, we have got also bottom-up perspective, and these experiences that we had last week contributed to this. This is a photograph from Ukwenza's archive, one of the companies that we've met, this social responsible business working with like creating games for education on plastic waste pollution. So here there is the care of environment, the sharing and educational needs in play. Okay. But it is interesting also to notice, and I don't know if everybody of you might notice this, that there is very strong also Christian approach to VR environments. And here I also noticed, and it was the first one for me really to spot precisely this ethical approach. Here, values are a bit different. The fundamental values is truth and good. And this is what is important, to not to be free and share as we want and even go anarchist, but rather assure obedience and the modesty of population. And this kind of orientation is really cooperating well with the capitalist structure and willingly cooperating in neoliberal economy in technologically defined times. Okay, and yes, a Christian church is very much interested in VR environments and in extended reality. And since a couple of years, Vatican is holding an annual conference, a cyclical conference that is called Humanity 2.0. It is within the project of having the same name. And here they are considering the relation between human, the society, and the technology. Last conference was in December 2022, and the focus was on human flourishing. So the focus is how to direct and on which reasons to base forming the emerging new arrangements of human social life and technologically defined environments. So how we should do that the people flourish, but in technologically defined times using VR spaces. And generally there were talks also between Metaverse that was invited to this last conference and the representatives from Vatican, you know, how to think about this new environment from the ethical standpoint. But it is interesting to notice that this Christianity on the level of, you know, like on academic level or on a high Vatican level, it is very different than parochial ones. And it is going quite well in hand with the transhumanism. With transhumanism, especially if we think about Arian or Pelagian heresy, also Protestantism, what is being shown by Georg Teiner and C. Fuller, for example, that are showing that the transcending of the human status towards you know, image of God, like being the better, you know, going back to God's situation, status, can be really achieved with the technology, because we can have the knowledge of everything with the use of technology. We can extend our lives, possibly eternally, and we can assure our well-being. So perfecting and becoming God-like are these goals set by various strands of transhumanism, but it is in accordance with the Christianity. I'm finishing, Adrian, sorry. So this bottom-up perspective, I will tell you this is coming also from research here, maybe not from the past week, but when I first met Brian Afande from Black Rhino in November last year, and he told me when we were sharing the initial ideas about VR environments, he said to me, you know, I am Christian, you know, and building VR environments for me is a kind of evangelization. And it is important for me, well, what kind of ethical standpoint do I have, because later it directs my moral choices. So then when, for example, somebody comes to me and puts a pile of money on the table and tells, oh, let's shoot hard porn in Masai Mara for VR, he will say, no, I'm not doing such things for money, you know. remember, modesty is one of the objectives from this point of view. But this is what I'm saying about, a kind of ethical standpoint that is giving foundation for later moral decisions. Yes? So, just to finish, it is necessary to consider one's ethical standpoint in face of VR, but I'm not saying that this humanistic and Christian approach, also mixed, are the only ones. And if anybody has got some other ideas, or maybe there are some other visible for you approaches that might be highlighted, I'm waiting for this. So, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate totally. I have a question. The whole beginning from morning to now, it's all about hybridization as well as VR, cultures, integration and all. So my question is, how has the West, seemingly, who seem to be coming to Africa, ethically considered a historical past probably that has had us having issues? And if ethics were to apply, should in such a forum could have started from the beginning of like where we are at before we would embrace each other in this?
Thank you. I'm not really sure about what you want to question. Should we consider, we are thinking of new environments that are emerging, which are accessible for people from various cultures. So there we can negotiate the ways how we organize it. And as I try to avoid talking about Africa as one, I'm also kind of allergic for treating West as one. Especially, I'm from Poland, which is Central and Eastern Europe. That is very different than, like France and Germany, and has different history also in relation to colonization. For example, the names of my people are not Bantu, but Slavs. That comes from sklavs, that is from slaves. So I don't know, we can start from there, that you were, we were, and...
Someone else? Three.
We talked a bit in our own PTE presentation about this idea of sort of distributed organizational environments, let's say, where they're organized by the participants and the people who want to go in them, want to be in them for the reasons that they want to be in them. They follow the same moral codes, they follow the same ethics, let's say. And how participatory are we talking about these environments? I mean, are these going to be something that are imposed upon us, or are they going to be something that we elect to join? And where do we fit in the main there? And how can we construct them in that sort of sense?
Thank you very much. I consider it as a very important question, because VR, if we are staying with VR, is giving different kind of experiences, and you can switch off others. So it can be an individual experience, or even solitary. But it can be also a communal, like in Christoph's presentation. And it is not this that I'm advocating for construing VR environments, because I think that they will be appearing and much more. So this, what I'm thinking is this, that we should work on this, that they are common spaces for being together and not just, playing games and shutting off the others, erasing images of people, yes? So, but this is, how we approach it, because yes, it can be really alienating technology, but it can be also used to reconnect. So this is not in the technology, it is in this what we will do with it.
Yes, thank you very much. This presentation gives me the chance to a little back also to your previous presentation with Adrian. I'm a newcomer as a direct experiencer in this virtual world, but I think that one process, one idea, which is also related to the ethical matters, is to get off from the duality. This is I feel from myself. For example, when Adrian told, my avatar is waiting for me there, maybe he's crying, but maybe also there is a person somewhere, or maybe a person who is not anymore here, or maybe a book, or maybe a CD, or maybe your feelings. So we are connected with many aspects of the reality, virtual, physical, virtual in a technological way, I would say, and virtual also in a non-technological way, as Carla was also describing this morning. And so I think that if we don't feel just this duality so strong, so shared, maybe we could start to dialogue more, also on the aesthetical point of view. This is my feeling. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I am also trying not to kind of divide, and the way how I'm trying to connect is showing that both of the realities, or different kind of realities, are real and not just false. It is not a lie. But it is something that we are really doing, although differently. From the point of view of aesthetics, it is really fascinating because it is about appearance, about phenomenal side of different worlds, how they are, how they might be combined and overlaid. You know, so this, like, from the study of perceptual aesthetic experience is very, very interesting. Yes, but but the way I want to give this connection is saying that after Chalmers, or like Chalmers, that yes, virtual reality or augmented reality is real, although it's differently built. This that we don't see the air does not mean that there is none.
Hello, I'm Roman. You all mentioned about UNESCO approach to the ethics and AI. Imagine, please, that 2 years ago we put in petition to the UN to update Universal Declaration of Human Rights, mostly Article 23. It sounds now it sounds like this: everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and to protection against unemployment. And we proposed extension with this kind of update. Everyone has the right of priority to work before robot equipped with AI, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and to protection against unemployment. Yes, and imagine they are still proceeding it. 2 years gone, we are closer and closer to the world of AI. We are talking to chat created by OpenAI, and United Nations, they are still not able to do something with updating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Thank you, Adrian. Roman, I think, you know, I was considering different kind of transformation of the same declaration, but so that to include persons that are embodied not in Homo sapiens species, because I feel that this kind of definition is obsolete. While we are having already cyborgs, you know, like Neil Harbison, to whom nobody would deny a status of a, you know, full-fledged citizen, a person, but he's not a human anymore, he's a cyborg. Or when we have got also like citizen Sophie or others, I'm of the side, on this side of here, that I don't want to discriminate beforehand, especially the beings that are based not on protein, but for example on silicon or Caphe. How is Caphe? On a silicon. So protein. How we may say that other beings, even if they act as if they are conscious or in future, or as if they feel, why we can say that they don't feel and don't think? I don't like our history that is showing that we used to do so to many different others. And with AI and development of robotization, yes, we are facing new others. Do we want to make the same mistakes? It can be quite costly.
Okay, thank you so much for a thought-provoking talk. Thank you for great questions and replies. Thank you to Ola. And the last talk will be delivered by my friend Christos. Is now going to speak about, designing historical empathy into a shared cultural heritage we are experience.
Yes. Okay. Okay, hello again. It will be the last time you will see me, I promise. Yes, it's another person. Let me remove that again. Okay, so no introductions now. I'm going to present designing historical empathy into a shared cultural heritage VR experience. This is about an immersive virtual reality experience in which pairs of remotely located participants, this time not co-located as the previous presentation, collaborate in a virtual reconstruction of the UNESCO Neolithic site of Çatalhöyük in modern-day Turkey. So, Çatalhöyük is a Neolithic site. It is placed in Turkey, near Konya, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So it's about 9,000 years old Neolithic site in the remote center of Turkey, excavated for 60 years by more than 1,000 specialists. It was occupied by up to 8,000 people at once for more than 1,000 years without hierarchy, and it was an egalitarian, or it is believed to be, that it was an egalitarian socio-economic organization. Homes there were built and rebuilt over the same foundations, changing little over the generations. Buildings were painted white inside to reflect light from openings in the ceilings. They didn't have normal doors because all the houses were next to each other, so it could get very bright inside. Burials of the dead beneath floors in homes have been found. Up to 62 burials were found in a single home. So people who were buried there, it is believed that they also ate together, but maybe they have not been directly related. The dead were buried in platforms upon which the living slept and ate. Archaeologists have found exquisite wall paintings, and art is reflecting community identities and connections between homes. There has been also some artifacts that were found, sculptural art, like this Mother Goddess, I think it's the name. So what we wanted to do is to pull together these fascinating elements and concepts which derive from archaeological interpretations into an immersive experience for the site of Çatalhöyük. Most importantly, the immersive experience has been explicitly designed as a social activity. Together, the participants enact some of the social practices inferred through archaeological research at Çatalhöyük, from artistic expression of group identity to home repair and burial customs, while engaging in guided exploration and conversation. In groups of 2, you are led around 4 replica houses. Here you explore the actions of the locals of Neolithic Çatalhöyük, sharing and leaving behind objects to echo their egalitarian society. So this was the first environment that the users found themselves. It is the tutorial room where they greet each other and they learn the controls. And then we have a video about the second room. Let me play it for you. Yeah. So as you can see here, there are 2 players. They are next to each other in the physical world, but they are not next to each other in the virtual world. There is no one-to-one mapping as I showed in the previous experience. And they have found themselves in the second room of the experience where they customize their avatar. They have very simple virtual representations of themselves in form of a capsule and a sphere for the head. So they can change the sphere of the head and wear an animal mask, as you can see here, and also change the colors of their avatar. They had also a virtual mirror in front of them, so they could see how they look and discuss upon the decisions they made. And also, most of them, they would start dancing when they saw the mirror. So, yeah, this is, as I said, the room that they were customizing their avatars. And the next step was to select one of the artifacts out of 4 that we had, and also select the color of the artifact that they wanted to get. Then on the next room, they have found themselves in a virtual reconstruction again, where we have many paintings on the wall. As you can see here, they are moved to this room and they explore. They are being instructed also by the narrator to find their identity into these paintings based on what they have selected for their avatar, their colors, and things like that. So they start also discussing among them if they have found anything or not. Oops. And next they are being asked to repair a part of the wall that has been damaged by plastering it and placing afterwards some stamps so as to leave their identity. And on the next room, a grave appears in front of them where they have to uncover it, reveal the dead people inside and make an offering afterwards to honor the dead. In all these activities, they are reenacting parts of the activities that were taking place. And after they place their offerings in the grave and they cover again the grave, they are being transported to the actual archaeological site, which has been constructed using photogrammetry, and they can move around. They are also asked to communicate with each other and share their experiences in terms of burial practices and what we do to create a safe environment for ourselves. And here you will see the video that goes throughout the whole experience. We have no audio. So you cannot hear what the users are saying, but yeah, they meet each other, they learn the controls collaboratively, so they share also, some instructions between one another if one of them cannot understand the controls. So they learn at first how to teleport, then they learn how to grab objects. There was also the ability to exchange objects, and all these objects that they find, they are actual archaeological findings. Then, as we said, they move to the next part of the experience where they customize their avatars by using animal masks and customizing also the color of their avatar. Here they can see themselves in the mirror, and you can see that at some times they are high-fiving and they're also dancing, but when they are high-fiving, this is a technique we used in order to synchronize them in time and space, because as we noticed in the first test, the narrator was talking on top of them, and they didn't expect the narrator to talk at some point, so it was very distracting. And what we did was that we used this high-five mechanic in order to get them in the same place and have them express their intention to continue the experience. As you saw here, they plastered the wall, and now they proceeded to stamping the wall by using some red ochre. And in that way, they leave their mark and their identity to the site. Here they uncover the burial. The models of the grave are not great. We have changed them now. We use the 3D modeler for that. And then they leave their offerings. They cover the grave again, and then the transition takes place and transports them from the past to the present time. And they see the actual archaeological site as it is right now. Okay. So we collected feedback throughout through the participation of more than 50 users at different venues. There were many comments. In general, they enjoyed the gaming parts of the experience. The social and collaborative aspects were some of the strongest features. And in general, people that have experienced other cultural heritage VR apps, they found that it was something different and unique. They also commented on the environment and the graphics, and some inexperienced users had a bit of difficulty getting used to the controls. Some more comments here. But now, what makes the experience more engaging and effective? So what emerged from the evaluations with the visitors, we got answers related to meaningful interactions, dialogue and reflection, social, collaborative, distributed nature of the experience, emotional engagement through storytelling with the content, the era, the people, the objects, and the inducing of historical empathy, the multiple alternative representations and interpretations, and the perspective-taking aspect of it, and the playful nature. To achieve this, we prioritized effective engagement, historical empathy, and sociality as part of an overarching objective to achieve more meaningful and complex user encounters with immersive cultural experiences. So in that way, our goal was to explore the ways that immersive presentation can shift from the mostly didactic walkthroughs to experiences that are playful, emotive, social, and shared, meaningfully interactive, and ultimately relevant and resonant to those they are designed for. You can download this experience on your HMT and experience it with someone else. This is the link, and you can scan the QR code. It's on itch.io. It's a platform for distributing games. Also, you can get in touch with me, and maybe we can set up a demo for you, since we're here. Tonight, yes. And before I leave you, let me share with you a video of the project that this was developed for. Actually, I didn't mention it, I forgot. So this was developed during the Emotive project, which took place from 2017 until 2019. And we were many partners across all Europe. So this is a video for the general project. Yeah, to find out more, you can visit emotiveproject.eu, and thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, Christos. The floor is open for your questions. Technical question from Jose.
Ooh.
Hello, Christos.
Hello.
I'd like to know if in that virtual environment it is needed a Rift connection, like Airlink, a connection to the PC.
Yes, it's a PC.
So it's not a standalone.
It's a PC VR experience. You need to have PC VR ready PCs and 2 headsets.
And but it's wireless or with a cable?
It depends. There are some PC VR headsets that can work wirelessly, so it depends. It has to be PC VR though. Yeah.
And have you that kind of experience with the virtual construction of the space and with the photogrammetry process?
Yeah.
It was only in that place?
So all the places you saw, even the white houses that the main part of the experience took place, they were all photogrammetry. So the white houses were replica houses that were built by the archaeologists with the same tools and means as they were built back in the day. So they are in the site, you can visit them, and they have been taken, using photogrammetry.
But for example, you didn't try it yet in Acropolis.
What?
In Acropolis with
Yes?
Parthenon. It's in Athens. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah, I know where it is.
I know, I'm joking. But have you tried already in that kind of environment because, I don't know, I'm just asking.
No, we have tried only in Çatalhöyük and in the other, the presentation I did earlier. In other places, we haven't tried it yet. And in an open space like, the Parthenon, for example, first of all, it's hard to access. Second of all, it's an open space. So you have difficulties reconstructing 3D models when you are in the exterior. You need more means, maybe, a drone to go all over and combine the captures of the drone along with the captures you do on the site in the Parthenon, for example.
Think about that. If you want to become rich, think about that.
Okay. Thanks for the advice.
Okay, next question.
Yes. Hi.
Hello.
Do you try to build a virtual instrument in the virtual space, where the people can change the sound with the hand?
Musical instrument.
Yes, but
Okay.
it's not a real instrument, illusionary or fantastic instrument.
Yeah, we haven't tried that. There are some VR apps though that they have instruments that they don't exist in the real world. They have, some buttons, some sliders, and you interact with them to create music. I can show you such an experience, but yeah, we haven't played there with. And other more creative stuff, yeah, even, very abstract shapes or types of movement. And it's a new way of creating music that it cannot be replicated in the real world. It can only happen in the virtual world. It's very interesting, yeah.
Any other question? May I return the attention towards the empathy? Because this empathy was something which should be raised, right? Strengthened somehow using this experiment, case study, let's say. So what do you think? Is it possible? Is this level of empathy sustainable enough, this architecture of case study to motivate, to highlight somehow?
I don't think I get the question exactly. Can you repeat?
Empathy.
Empathy, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What kind of empathy we can get from this?
What kind of empathy we can get?
Yeah. Is it
from the medium?
From this case study?
From this experience?
Yeah. Because that was the title, right?
Yes. Okay. So the aspects I think that create this type of empathetic, let's say, experiences that you have while you go through these virtual reality experiences. It's first of all you hear a narrator that comments on what you're doing, and second of all you enact some parts of what people used to do back then. So, for example, by leaving offerings to the dead, by covering with plaster the walls and leaving your mark there, you are acting upon some things that they used to do back in the day in an environment that it's almost the same as it was, because as I said, it was built with the same means. So yeah, I don't know, I don't have a specific answer to that. I cannot measure empathy, but yeah, from my experience and from the users' comments, they felt very connected to the place. They felt very connected to the aspects, of their society back then, but also they felt connected with each other, and this was the most impactful thing. Because it was a social experience, you were communicating constantly with the other person, and you made reflections upon the actions you made and what you heard from the narrator. So the most impactful connection was not the empathetic, let's say, part, was the social aspect and the sharing between the users.
Have you published these results of research of experiences of people who take part in this VR?
If we have published them?
Yes. Did you publish them?
We are working on a publication right now. Yeah, they are not published yet. And we have gathered actually much more data than what I showed here. Yeah, unfortunately it's not published yet.
Okay, I think we can close the Q&A session. Thank you so much, Christos. And thank you to all of you who participated during these two sessions and the keynote speech of Mr. Mutuma Marangu. Pardon? An observation. Yeah, of course. Why not? Before we close this today meeting.
Hello, everyone. I believe this symposium was meant for the School of Performing Arts, Creative Performing Arts and Music, but I feel as the Department of Fashion, who are not represented in any way, or it's tomorrow. Okay, I'd like to commend the presenters from KU and specifically her. I believe when you're presenting, you should treat your audience as dummies, because I think most of the presenters were reading out notes, and I can remember some of what was presented, but then, yeah, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Any other observation or some comments on? If not, I would like to thank you once again for a nice, yeah, Mr.
Just to respond to the question from the student from the Department of Fashion Design and Marketing, actually we invited all members of staff from the 4 departments, and we asked them to bring students. So what I've seen here mostly are students from the Department of Fine Art and Design and Department of Communication, Media, Film and Theatre Studies, but we communicated to all chairpersons. So probably you could take this opportunity to tell your colleagues who are interested, they can join us tomorrow. Yeah, it's open. Thank you. 8 o'clock, yes. European time.
No European time, not at all. So we will see each other if it's possible for you, and we would like to attend at 8 a.m. Tomorrow, Eastern African time, please. Yeah, keep in mind that. Thank you so much.
There's coffee and tea downstairs before you leave. Make sure you don't leave without taking the coffee and tea, otherwise it will go to waste. Thank you.
Zakira Muhammad yuko mbioni kumaliza umasikini unaosababishwa na hedhi. Pamoja na wenzake wamebuni vikombe vya hedhi vinavyoweza